Deep in the shadows, I know it's hard to put one foot in front of the other.
Hi everyone, CeeChronicles here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I post Middle Eastern fragrances on this channel. I do the reviews as well as, a comparison of some of the clones that we get from the Middle Eastern fragrance houses. So if you like that style of content, please do consider joining this family by subscribing. Now, to those who are returning, guys, thank you so much for the continued support. If you want to see Western fragrances, I have a second channel called CeeChronicles Unscripted. On that channel, I feature Western fragrances as well as vlogs or my life in general. That channel's link is in the description box, and the description box, guys, is the top of this channel where you'll see my photograph there. Just underneath that, you're going to see the channel link, and I would appreciate if you became part of both channels. Welcome to today's video, guys. We are still on the niche Emarati collection. I did an unboxing of these fragrances about 3 days ago. We already have a full review of Quinoa, but while I'm at it, let me just mention quickly that I did get a subscriber who came in the comment section saying, the way you're describing this fragrance, the fact that it does smell like Hasavat but very faint, there could be that it's in the same vein as Creed Aventus Her, right? So I haven't put my nose on that. It's a possibility. If you love Creed Aventus Her, do get your nose on this for a little test of that, and maybe try and grab yourself this. But I'm still going to say, guys, I wore them side by side, especially with the Rave Now Black by the same house, Lattafa, and there was a lot of semblance there. And I also did try and compare it with the actual real thing, which is Hasavat. So for the fact that everything else is coming as faint, that subscriber could be right. It could be in the same vein as Creed Aventus. But if you like either one of those fragrances, guys, Hasavat or maybe Creed Aventus Her, that is one that you can check. The second fragrance I thought to feature here is going to be Hayaam. I am tempted to call this Hayaam. I don't know why. I have to keep correcting myself, right? So it comes in this presentation. This is off the niche Emarati collection, and it's going to be a box in a box. So you have the outer box, and then this one goes inside. So if you checked out the unboxing and the other review, you probably are familiar with this kind of presentation, and then you open the fragrance like this, and that's how you get to the fragrance. Now, this is one of the ones with a minimalistic bottle, if we're going by what Lattafa is giving us in terms of the packaging for the niche Emarati. The reason why I decided to bring Hayaam as soon as possible, guys, is this is one of the challenging ones. So I wanted you guys to have the info as soon as possible, in case you are one of those that follow everything I say here, or you will use a mental shortcut that if C holds this one, it's probably going to be a good one. Okay, so we're going to spray it here on a tester paper, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts while it dries there. Let me read through the notes, because Lattafa gave us the notes, so there's no need to kind of like crack my head for the notes. Okay, so the top of this is marine, salt, lemon, and Davana. The mid of this is lily of the valley as well as iris, and then the base is oak moss, ambergris, and sandalwood. I'm going to agree with Lattafa absolutely on the fact that this is a marine toned fragrance. You are going to get that distinct marine. I'm not going to call it fresh. I'll explain why I'm not calling it fresh, but it's going to give you that aquatic kind of tone there and a realistic saltiness. So I do think that in as much as sometimes Lattafa omits notes and they put some of the notes, the marine or ozonic kind of vibe there is true to the nature of this fragrance. It is a fragrance that comes across as giving you or taking you to that beach setting or a seaside setting, as though you're walking at the side of the beach there, and there's a water or the waves hitting on some rocks and stuff, and you're at the edge, and that same water is evaporating because it's hot, and you are smelling that smell of the water. So from that smell, guys, I get almost like a realistic seaweed type of vibe in this fragrance. Lattafa themselves do not list that this fragrance has got seaweed, but I do get a seaweed type of note that is kind of doing the most in here, an almost greenness that is bothersome there. It comes across as if you're walking, let's say, near a body of water, and there were those weeds right there, and those weeds are not exactly smelling fresh. That's why I said I cannot keep this under fresh. Yes, it's going to be aquatic because, of course, there is that water, umbrella to the DNA, but it doesn't come across as a fresh vibe or wrap up to this fragrance. Rather, that seaweed type of note then gives essence of something that smells like a saliva note in here. So that's why I thought, okay, let me bring this fragrance. And I remember when I hold it and I pulled it up on the website, this was an oversight. I actually thought the fragrances were all in the 1,000 and something rand kind of range. Okay, rand as in the South African currency, but this one was the only one that was 700 rand. Now, am I saying it's a bad quality fragrance? No, I do get a good quality fragrance in this, but it's definitely not a safe blind buy. And I think that is the reason why out of the 4 that I hold, this one was the most affordable. I purchased this one for 700 rand. I think there's a reason to that. This is a DNA that you definitely want to smell. This is not a DNA that you want to blind buy unless you're crazy about that seaside note, that seaweed note, that salty marine tone there, not necessarily, fresh. The mention of Divana here on the note pyramid, had me banging my head trying to extract that. The only thing I can say, if for instance there is an inclusion of Divana, is maybe it's just contributing to the exotic nature of this fragrance. But I do get a fragrance, guys, that has that saliva note anchored there by an intense ockmos. Let's see if they did put the ockmos there. Yeah, there is ockmos at the base. So yeah, that saliva note is kind of anchored by like an ockmos type of note there, giving this fragrance like an intense, almost dense, almost damp, wet feel. Okay, it just straight up comes across as pretty odd, and that ambergris there only helps to build more and more weight into the marine note. So it is definitely one of those that are going to tick the boxes for you if you love the marine note. Now, as a cautionary tale, guys, remember the niche Emarati line is the one that is very beastly. Just looking at this juice, you're not going to be able to see it off the camera, but just if you had this one in your hand or the other clear ones like this one in your hand, you can actually tell from the juice that the oil concentration is quite heavy there. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there are some fragrances that you can see that this is a light kind of fragrance just by shaking it about. So these fragrances, guys, are not fragrances that go away pretty quickly. So you got to love this DNA for you to want it in your collection. It also comes across as like a masculine toned fragrance, and no, guys, I'm not saying it's masculine toned because it's got that saliva note or it's just off-putting to me. It just has that kind of feel where if you perhaps gift it to a man, they could work with it, if you know what I mean, because the notes in here, there is nothing in here that comes across as a sweet, something that is associated perhaps with most fragrances that women align to. The sweetness in here is very toned down, almost faint, almost non-existent. So it doesn't come across as a sweet fragrance. It comes across as that linear fragrance that the beginning of it is going to end like that, but you're going to have it lasting, even till the next wash, smelling like that. So if you're a person who is bothered, by that bouncing off of what feels like maybe a realistic algae note, even a realistic weedy note there, it's just imagine the sun hitting on those weeds at the edge of the sea there, and then there's a build up in the air because of evaporation, and then you kind of like smell that because maybe there's been like a what you call like a splash, or the water waves have just risen, and then there's like a splash, and there's a little bit of some water in the air, and you smell that. How you perceive that now then depends, but it's not something that I'm perceiving as fresh, so I wouldn't cap this as fresh, if you know what I mean. It just comes across as that roundup of a very realistic kind of salty marine type of fragrance. They did list lemon in here, but lemon could very well be in here but not getting a chance because that wrap up there is doing the most. So that lemon shouldn't make you feel or think this fragrance is going to be citric. They listed lily of the valley and some sandalwood, but it's no, I'm not getting any sandalwood from this fragrance, guys. It could be that it will change, but it was one that I was quick to figure out why it was affordable, and I had to come and clue you up, because for those who are saying, oh, we don't like these huge bottles, and in as much as it's the niche, niche collection, we don't want these funny odd looking bottles, there was a chance that you were going to be drawn to this bottle because it's quite minimalistic and it's quite sleek right there, but the juice in itself is one that you need to test out. Umbrella DNA, let me say, it could be a Lattafa standalone, but in terms of likening it to something that is on the market that is pretty odd, just like this, maybe let us say Otto Parisi Megamere. Okay, it's not a clone, but I'm saying if you like that sort of DNA, kind of weird DNA right there, that can come off as off-putting to some people, or majestic to some, then this one's going to work for you. It is a fragrance that's going to last till the next wash, so you've got to commit to this fragrance. CeeChronicles is my name. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have been talking about Hayaam. These fragrances have not macerated at all. If they change, I will let you know. But when it comes to, this one changing, it probably will, but if the change is going to be this thickening, that's going to worsen it for me. But I'm still going to keep it in my collection. Remember I said I was going to keep the niche Emarati collection in my collection. I think I just would love to eventually maybe end up with all of them. Do turn on post notifications on both my channels. That way you get to be notified anytime I upload a video. Like and share this one meanwhile, guys. And remember that smelling good is a form of good manners. Cheers.